T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Yo, 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 it's Monday and it's May. It's a whole new month, but we're here on Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Welcome to the Wow Superheroes After Show, coming at you live every Monday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and whatever other time it comes on wherever you're at. Hey, y'all. Of course, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, color commentator featured on the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, and Black Girl Magic 2022, and host and writer for this fabulous network here. But of course, I am not alone. I am with my tag team partner, the fabulous, the innovative, the super mom, Miss Katrina Blake of In Cat We Trust. How are you, Kat, with your blue hair?
Hey, I'm fine. A little tired, but I'm happy to be here. How are you?
I'm doing fine too, a little tired myself, but it's Monday. And then on top of that, not only is it Monday, we get to come on here and talk about Wild Superheroes, which is a pretty stacked show. And a lot of stuff has been going on in the wrestling landscape that's been shaking a lot of things up. Not only just for the men's side, but definitely on the women's side. We're seeing people walk into their power in other promotions. We're seeing people, shake stuff up with merchandise. And then you're also seeing people bounce back in a beautiful way with motherhood after having endured major loss. So it's amazing. It feels like this season of wrestling as a whole is sort of like a rebirth, because of course we're in springtime, so that's what's going on now. The weather's getting warmer, plants are out here, like we're just doing the things, and it's great. So yeah, I'm just really excited. So Kat, we're here to talk about this past episode of Wow Superheroes. The Wow Women of Wrestling girls are really turning up the heat as we continue to evolve in this season. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this episode as a whole before we get into the nitty-gritty?
That was a really solid episode. We're seeing some people that were in tag team action like a week, 2 weeks ago. Now doing some solo action. We're also seeing, I feel like, especially with the main event, like I feel like we might have a little bit of tide turning with regards to if certain teams were face afterwards. Like I feel like that's where it kind of went with the main event. And so it was kind of like, okay, we're seeing some changes. And so I thought it was a really solid episode for this past Saturday.
It was a pretty solid episode. Like I really did enjoy it. I loved the action. It was full of tag team action and multi-women action as well. So I really did enjoy it. and what we've got cooking up. Of course, you had WoW actually had a lot of programming come out over the past week or so, not even just with this episode, but also with their documentary on the evolution of women's wrestling, which was playing on Pluto TV, which I do believe they will be re-airing at some point. And hopefully here at Women's Wrestling Talk, we'll be able to have some programming talking about the documentary and the content of it. So yeah, WoW has been, churning out a lot of content outside of just their regular episodic stuff. And you love to see it. So I'm really excited to get into this episode, which aired this past Saturday. And of course, if you did watch this episode, if you're watching with us, as we are live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, thank you all for watching. For every part that we talk about in this episode, go in the comments, light up the chat, and tell us what parts you like, who's your favorite WoW superhero, what's your favorite storyline, and if there's a superhero that you kind of like that you kind of miss seeing on the show, let us know that too. Just get it cracking in the comments. So, of course, we're going to start with our first match, which was a one-on-one match between Jennifer Florez and Gigi Gianni. This match was really good. It was a really good start to WoW, and this was also where I saw a lot of the evolution of the production value again, because as the show got started and the entrances got started as well, you started to see a lot of the visual representations of who's on commentary and who's doing the ring announcing and stuff like that. They even showed in the corner that it was Stephen Dickey, David McLean, of course, who is the creator of WoW, and AJ Mendez as well. So here again, they're starting new visual effects on WoW to keep it interesting, so it's an aesthetically pleasing, so that's happening. But this match got started, and of course Gigi has sort of been finding her groove on her own outside of tag team wrestling. And then you have Jennifer Florez, Miss Gen Z, out here getting it cracking. But this match was kind of a showcase, I would say, of Gigi Gianni's talent and a lot of what she has to offer as a wrestler. She was really giving it to Jennifer Florez. As you can see in this picture, this is where she was putting her boot in Jennifer Florez's face. She was definitely like hitting her like really hard with her fists and forearms and stepping on her hair and whatnot, and tying her up and stretching her out through the ropes and everything. Like, this match was really, a showcase of what Gigi Gianni has to offer. And I really enjoyed seeing more of that rough and tumble, from her. But then you also have Jennifer Florez, who is very resilient when it comes to her fighting style as well. She is really quick, so you got to watch her with her feet and also with her strikes as well. And a lot of her innovative takedowns and her innovative submissions are really a good part of watching Jennifer Florez wrestle as well. And in the end, Jennifer Florez wound up coming out the victor with her really unique and special looking flip into like a slam onto her opponent. I don't think they've officially named it yet, but either way, it was really good. It was a really good way to and decisive way to end the match. And Gigi was also being really nasty to Jennifer Florez, even in the beginning. She was mushing her face multiple times. And I was just like, Gigi, you can't just be getting this mean to her like this. But Jennifer showed that she really isn't to be played within this match, and Jennifer Florez came out with the win here. So, Katrina, how did you feel about the performance of Gigi Gianni and how Jennifer Florez was able to bounce back?
I thought it was a really good showcase for Gigi. Like, I'm thinking when we first saw her, and then it was like her tag, she was kind of teamed up with Adriana Gambino, and then kind of tag teamed again with somebody else, and so to kind of see her kind of really flourish, and while she was being a bit mean in the process of what she was doing, it still was kind of nice to see her flourish, and that we finally kind of see her getting her own solo type footing in a while. And so that was really good to see. And I thought it says a lot about Jen that she was able to bounce back, considering this was probably, to me, one of Gigi's best showings she's had so far on WoW. And so even with this being like a really fantastic showing for Gigi, Jen was able to still like kind of get past that and win. And so that says more credit to her that she was still able to pick up the win, considering that this, to me, it was one of her best showings. I thought she really shined in this. And it was good to see, because maybe this can also be like, while she is like, she has her friendship, if you want to call it that, with Amber Rodriguez, that maybe this is going to be the start to her doing more solo stuff. And so it was really cool to see. But I thought it was a really good match. I thought it was good to open. But I felt like in different aspects, both women did what needed to be done. And so like it was nice to see that what Gigi can do. But also it was nice for Jen to get the win. And so pretty solid match opening up. Wow.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. Like both of these women really showed what they had to offer and I really enjoyed it. And it was a great opening. And here's hoping that we do get to see more of what Gigi Gianni has to offer because of course she's stylish, but she's also very tough and very aggressive. And we saw a lot of that during this match, but yet Jennifer Florez, still found a way to maneuver through it and prosper and with this win. So kudos to her and kudos to both women for their performance in the match. And then something that they did keep doing throughout the episode was that they kept bigging up the main event and sort of showing a lot of different basically just bigging up the main event and talking about how these women have had differences over the past couple of weeks, which are leading to this fatal four-way in the main event. So we did get to see that. And then we also got to see a little bit more of the motivations, the mystical motivations, I guess you could say, of Siren the Voodoo Doll and Holidead as they were preparing to face off against Chantilly Chella again, but with a different partner because Chantilly, of course, was tagging with Foxy Fierce when they fought each other the last time, and this is where Foxy Fierce's sister was actually in the audience, and Holiday was still beating up on Foxy Fierce and basically like was stomping on her chest and everything and choking her out, which led them to losing that match. So as we heard from them, Siren the Voodoo Doll called Chantilly Chella a foolish dancing queen and said that in her cards, yeah, I see that you're choosing a new opponent, but it's not going to make any difference. We're still going to beat you. Like, we still have this. It's sort of like they low-key have a hex on Chantilly Chella at this point, and that could very well stop her from succeeding regardless to what partner that she had. So I really did enjoy. I do get a kick out of seeing, these skits and stuff that Siren and Holiday get to do because we get to see more of them being mystical because we saw them, of course, in their beef with Kandi Krush involving the gloves and everything. But it's good to see, more of and hear more of Siren the Voodoo Doll's voice when it comes to her motivations because it's like we hardly, if ever, saw her wrestle when the WoW got started, but now we're seeing her wrestle and we're hearing more of her voice when it comes to the cards and stuff. And then you got Holiday lurking in the back looking like, yeah, I'm going to get you and eat you or something like that. It's so funny. I just thought about that and I was just like, you know what? Her and the Boogeyman would have been a perfect mixed tag team. So, Katrina, how did you feel about their little segment leading into their tag team match?
I thought it was good. The boogeyman. The boogeyman used to be so ugh. Just not that he's scary to me because I don't get scared easily. He was just so yucky. I'm just like I don't do worms, and so like that's like one thing I really don't like worms, and so I'm just like ew. He always had those, but I can see it. I can see it. But I thought it was a good. I guess if you're trying to get a little bit more insight into what is now clearly a feud, that was a nice little segue into the match later on. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was really good too. And then, I actually thought about cosplaying as Siren the Voodoo Doll one time, but I just didn't have time to gather all the things. Because I
Yeah.
just feel like she would just be a really interesting cosplay because it's like she's a little bit on the short side. I'm short, so I just felt like with the natural hair and everything, with the face paint, like it would just be perfect. But who's to say? Maybe next time it'll happen at some point. But that led into our next match, which was the tag team match involving Siren the Voodoo Doll and Holidead going up against Chantilly Chella and why am I blanking? Why am I blanking? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking?
Keta Rush.
And Keta Rush, there we go. I'm sorry. Chantilly Chella and Keta Rush, the WoW OG. No disrespect to her, I promise. Like I've been through a lot today. I was really tired. But yes, it was Chantilly Chella and Keta Rush, Team Cape. because of course they came out there with their capes on, and David McClain was ready to catch either one of them. But then Chantilly Chella didn't really throw it that well, so the cape fell to the ground, and David didn't catch it, and Keta didn't throw it, so he was sad, and they were making fun of him for being sad for not catching it. So there was that. But then you also have Siren the Voodoo Doll and Holidead coming out, and Steve Dickey and AJ Mendez were so scared of them that they were just like, "Oh my god, if you look at Holidead, like if you move, like she'll see you or she'll feel you." And then they were just really scared of her. And then Stephen Dickey also gave AJ Mendez the idea of a zombie queen or a zombie tiger for her next graphic novel idea, and I thought that was really funny. So I think they were alluding to the fact that Holiday could feel you or sense you if you moved a certain way. So that was just really funny. But shout out to AJ Mendez for being a color commentator as well as a graphic novelist too, like in her retirement. Still wish she would go back in the ring though, but we'll see. So yeah, this tag team match was pretty solid for the most part. Keta Rush tried to jump onto Holidead a lot of the time, but it seemed like for every moment she tried to use her quickness to try to take down Holidead. Holidead always had something to answer for with her power and her strength. And it also felt like Keta and Chantilly had a little bit a better chemistry, because there was a point where they did sort of slam Holiday with double knees and double forearms and double kicks and stuff, and I was just like, okay, well, y'all got a chemistry and I see that. But Siren and Holiday, of course, we're taking them down bit by bit, and I feel like in this match, you kind of saw the differences in Siren and Holiday. Of course, Holiday is really strong and she'll throw you around and toss you about, but Siren is sort of slow and methodical with the way that she wrestles. Like she sort of moves and then she'll hit you with like knees, and then she'll sort of hit you with forearms and fists. But either way, it's still just as effective, and then she'll also take you down with suplexes as well. So that was a really nice showing on the part of Siren the Voodoo Doll. I did like that. But Keta and Chantilly were trying their best to fight out of it. And then there was one point where Keta had a hot tag to Chantilly, and she was taking down everybody with all of her drop kicks. And she even tried to hit a lucha arm drag. Well, she did hit a lucha arm drag onto Holiday and then hit a splash onto Siren, and it was really cool. But then at one point, I believe she got knocked off of the apron. And this was where Holiday and Siren the Voodoo Doll took advantage onto Keta Rush, and they wound up getting the win here. So Siren and Holiday have basically been having more of a dominant tear lately, because they won the last tag team match that they were in against Chantilly and Foxy, and then they also won against Chantilly and Keta. So they've been kind of on a roll here. So yeah, they came out the winner, Team Darkness. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the chemistry of Chantilly and Keta, and what do you think they could have done differently in order to wind up on top?
I think this is more of a Holidead and Siren the Voodoo Doll are kind of more in sync. They've been together this whole time. You think from when Holidead was here before, but you think of like when we started really watching WoW. And while we really didn't see Siren too much in the beginning, she kind of was always just kind of in the background a little bit. Like you didn't really see her wrestle too much. She kind of was just there. We kind of saw Chainsaw. We saw Holidead. We did not. So the fact that I think that's kind of it's kind of like having more surprises in a way. Like it's like you're not really sure what the skill set is yet when you're kind of first introduced to her. And so the fact that you have somebody who's more, and I want to say, I feel like Chainsaw is more of a powerhouse of that group, but I feel like Holiday might be right in the middle of that. The fact that she is more slow and methodical about it means that that's a little bit more, how do you really prepare for somebody when there's three very different types of styles in that faction? And so I don't know if they could have done anything necessarily different. It's just, I feel like in this regard, they just was better in sync. I feel like Holiday and Siren clearly worked together for a long time. They kind of know how, and let's the whole thing with Keta Rush, who now can go back a few months also, like even with the Kandi Krush situation, while they didn't really mess with Keta too much, she was around Kandi Krush as well. So if you guys was messing with Kandi Krush, then I'm sure they did a little bit of homework on at Keta for Keta as well. I feel like they were just a little bit more prepared in that way because they kind of been dealing with them for months now. And then they also have been together for all this time. So I don't know if I would say they could do anything, because I feel like both Keta and Chantilly are like fantastic wrestlers, but I feel like in this case, just this was one of a situation where it's like the better team won because they were better in sync, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make perfect sense. Holidead and Siren have been together for a longer period of time, so it definitely does make sense. And then you also think about the idea that Chantilly's had to change partners multiple times. So it's almost like you're starting from square one to build up that chemistry, as opposed to like capitalizing on the chemistry that you already have with someone. So you definitely have a point there with all of your points there, but it's just so unfortunate because it felt like Chantilly, she's very positive and she's really cool and I love her offense. Even her success in WoW and even outside of WoW, knowing, everything that she's accomplished there, because I've actually had the privilege of meeting her and calling some of her action. There's just so much that she has to offer. And I just hope that somehow or another, even if she never really finds another tag team partner to fight against Siren and Holidead with, maybe, she'll find strength on her own. There is always the idea of her going back into the singles division and sort of finding her way there. So who really knows exactly what's up? But Siren and Holiday do have, everybody's number in the tag division. And for all we know, they could very well want to challenge Miami Sweet Heat for those tag titles if they really wanted to. And that would make for a very interesting combo. Would you agree?
No, I do. I do think that it just could work because Chantilly has changed also. We've seen Chantilly like solo, but then she's also had quite a few different tag partners over the time of the last couple of weeks we've been watching. And so it could just be also just you need more time to gel, but or they're gonna maybe focus them back on solo runs, because I thought at first that's what they were doing in the beginning when we first saw Chantilly. It was kind of she had like a solo thing happening, and the next minute, and this is nothing against the tag teams, because I think Chantilly is a fantastic wrestler, but everybody, even if you guys are like super awesome friends and it's like, hey, it's a good time, doesn't necessarily always translate in the ring. And I think that's kind of just what happened in this regard. Just, Holidead and Siren just kind of had this on lock because the chemistry's there. They've been together longer. They kind of know each other's like ins and outs of in the ring. And I feel like that's just one of those, like, just only in regards to the better team and as far as being more in sync.
Yep, that is true. And then of course before of course they would challenge, the Carlson twins. I would love to see the Tonga twins challenge them because my offer and my booking still stands. So for those people who are watching us on WoW, make it happen. Give us the fair rematch between the Tonga twins and the Carlson twins. The streets need it, okay? They beat them in 8-woman tag action a few weeks ago. We need to see the rematch before Holidead and Siren and Voodoo all, insert their way in there. We need the twins versus twins situation. Okay, we need that to happen. So before we go into our next match, we're gonna pay some bills real quick with a commercial. We'll be right back.
Hey peeps, TK Trinidad here, boss lady of Women's Wrestling Talk. And I want to say thank you so much for watching, because you've got millions of options. Plus, you don't have to worry about sharing your password to check us out. But while you're here, hopefully we have so many more shows to watch, like Turnbuckle Glam, Raw post-show, WoW post-show, AEW Dynamite post-show, Women's Wrestling Army post-show, NXT post-show, Impact Wrestling post-show, AEW Rampage and SmackDown Live post-show, On the Scroll, ROH post-show, WWT Live, plus all of our interviews with the hottest women's wrestlers in the game. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com and follow us on all social media platforms at www.talkpod, and make sure to spread the word. That means send this to the group chat. Yes, even the person with the green bubble. Thanks again so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao for now.
Yes, yes. Shout out to TK Trinidad, our fabulous CEO, who helps us to grow every day and also to helps this channel to grow every day. So please be on the lookout for all of our programming throughout the week. And also, not in that commercial, we do have a post show for AEW All Access too. I want to throw that out there because I did see those girls on their live. Shout out to them for doing the post show for AEW All Access, for the wrestling reality people who love that show and love shows just like that. So please be on the lookout for that and all of our shows that we have throughout the week, and just support us as we continue to grow and report on everything that we see. So yeah, moving on into our next match. Oh my gosh, this was something that I was really sort of interested and intrigued by. Um, when it comes to the action. Oh, hold on a second. I'm having tech issues. Hold on, let me mute.
Wow. Sorry, guys. Tech issues.
Okay, I'm good. I'm sorry. I am so sorry,
Good.
guys. But yeah, the next match was another tag team match that I was really intrigued by in terms of seeing how this tag team was going to work. Considering last week we did see the alignment of Princess Aussie and Kandi Krush and them sort of coming together and figuring out, the things that they had in common and sort of bouncing back from a lot of toxic not really toxic views, I'm sorry, a lot of the toxic feuds that they've had over the past couple of years or months or whatever, with Princess Aussie and Candy Crush dealing with crazy stuff with Voodoo. So they wanted to join together and sort of bounce back in a way, so they became a tag team. So we have Princess Aussie and Candy Crush versus Exile coming out there with Ice Cold. Now this match was really hard hitting and also yet another aggressive match here. But even with it being very hard hitting, it was still a little bit unfair because you had the numbers advantage with Ice Cold being out there with Genesis and Exodus. But either way, it was still a pretty good match. Um, Candy Crush and Princess Aussie really showed out in this match. They really impressed me here. Especially Princess Aussie. You saw more of the aggression and more of her hard hitting that we do know her for, but then you also saw more of her takedowns and more of her hard hits in terms of her fists, which is something that, Candy Crush, did, that you can see Candy Crush sort of informed a little bit more because she is more, of course, um experience when it comes to the boxing element of it. And you also have Princess Aussie, who has, her experience in martial arts too, so they were able to sort of combine those together throughout this match. But you have Genesis and Exodus, who are just seeking to tear down these women bit by bit, as well as distracting the referee so they could continue to just gang up on Candy Crush, gang up on Princess Aussie throughout the match. And it was just really irritating for me because it just seems like, for all of the stuff that Genesis and Exodus have, it just seems like all they do is just use underhanded tactics to win when they don't even necessarily have to. And I feel like I say that a lot, but I'm just a face and I just don't like it when people cheat. So it's just so sad because it's just like Exile is like, y'all already have everything. Why y'all out here, doing all of this? And even when Candy Crush and Princess Aussie were giving the best that they had, just like you can see in this picture, when Candy was going for her patented knockout punch from the top rope that she normally gives, it looked like this had knocked out Genesis, but it didn't necessarily do that. And as the referee got caught up in shenanigans with Princess Aussie got down off of the apron and then she was trying to even up the odds. But then, as she got down off of the apron and went outside of the ring, Ice Cold threw her into the ring post, and this is where everything just went downhill. And then Kandi Krush wound up getting covered up by Exodus, and Exile wound up winning this tag team match. And this made me sad because I really was hoping that Princess Aussie and Kandi were going to come out with the win. But after the match was over, Kandi Krush did cut a promo and tell, David McClain that I'm getting sick and tired of the underhanded tactics from Exile. I want a rematch with these women because I know for sure me and Princess Aussie has what it takes to beat them fair and square. And of course, David McClain agreed to this. So we don't know exactly when the rematch is going to happen, but we can expect it on the horizon. But as of this moment, Exile got the win with Ice Cold as their X Factor. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match?
It's really good. I, as you said with Princess Aussie, I actually thought she really came out pretty like ferocious this week, and not to discredit any match, but I felt like in this one that maybe she was like on a mission. I kind of felt like she was really trying to prove herself in this, and it's unfortunate because while her and Kandi Krush did have like the things in common with regards to fight, like doing like outside fighting that's not wrestling related, this is another situation where Ice Cold is kind of lingering around. There was a reason why Exile was what they were. There was a reason for this, and so before they decided to get rid of their leader, they were super dominant at one point as well. And clearly, this kind of showcased even taking Ice Cold out of this why, and you was able to kind of see that with what they was going on, especially with some of the moments during the match with Princess Aussie, and so it's like, oh man, because I wanted them to win too, especially because they have the like new friendship, and I feel like Kandi Krush finally has like a new refreshed type feud where it's not like what it was before with like Holidead and Chainsaw and everything. It's like, okay, let's see if she kind of they do something with this. So to have her to lose the first like actual real match, like I guess tag team wise for this is like, oh man. But then you also understand it was because there was like some cheating going on, and of course it's like doing what heels do. Do you win it clean? And they didn't win it necessarily clean, and apparently referees never seem to know stuff going on. And WoW, apparently nothing ever. They never seem to catch when things are happening in WoW, and so it's unfortunate, but I do think it was a good match. I think, if anything, when I do think we're gonna probably see them match up again, like if not even just another tag match, maybe even a solo match. I do feel like we're gonna get that, and I feel like if anything, this is probably gonna renew whatever Princess Aussie went into the match with feeling as far as trying to prove herself. She's gonna really do it the next time. I think the next time she'll probably win it. I truly feel that, and I think it's more so because it's like it's one thing to like me try to come in and help a friend, and then we do this and you guys are losing. So now it's like, let me handle it. I feel like I just get the vibe that it's going to be like she wants to handle it the correct way on her own. And I feel like that's something that might not be necessarily a good thing going even for Ice Cold, because I'm surprised nobody has called her out separately, honestly. And the fact that she's been engaging in the last few weeks in people's matches, you would think somebody would be like, you know what, Ice Cold, me and you. Like, you would think somebody call her out by now. I'm really, truly surprised nobody's called her out because she's interfered in so many matches that I'm surprised nobody's like, you know what, I don't even need them. Let me get you first, because I would go for her first because of that. Because like after a while, you gotta stop interfering in my matches. And so I feel like I would personally call Ice Cold out. Like, now let's see what you can do by yourself. I feel like that's something I would do, and I'm surprised nobody's done that yet. But maybe Princess Aussie would. Maybe she'll be the person to be like, you know what, let's handle her first, because Ice Cold's kind of just drifting right now. Like, she's like a iceberg just drifting in the sea. Like, we don't really know where she belongs. And so like right now, and so she's that iceberg that had Jack go down, Titanic. But just she kind of floating around right now, so we don't really know where exactly she fits in and where she belongs. And so I'm surprised nobody's really called her out. But maybe this will be the catalyst for it, and maybe it'll be Princess Aussie, because I feel like I added a two, and this is again nothing to Kandi Krush, because I think she's super badass as well. But I feel like if you're going about who's more in your face, I feel like Princess Aussie is definitely like, she's somebody like, listen, okay, we're not doing this. This is the vibe I get from her.
Yep, near, far, wherever you are. Like, You're right, because even when it came to Ice Cold being aligned with Team Cold Discipline, like there was like only like one match that she participated in with all of them. I believe maybe one or two, but she didn't really fight that much. And then when she aligned with Exile, she would always just be sneaky or whatnot. But then it's just like she would always, wind up getting helping her team get the upper hand, which is so funny because when you first saw Ice Cold, like in the beginning, she told this story about how she sort of fought through a couple of things in a couple of things in her life in order to get to where she is now as a wild superhero. But what's so funny is she's always doing this underhanded stuff, and a part of me is just kind of like, man, why are you being evil when you could be good and using your powers for good? But she just wants to be evil, and it's just like, ma'am, stop it. Like, just like, is this even truly who you are? Like, do you know yourself? Like, where's like, is it? Come on. And I am surprised that no one has challenged her. So maybe down the road somebody will challenge her so she can stand on her own 2 feet to see if what she can do instead of hiding behind somebody else who could fight, her battles. Like she needs to learn how to fight her own battles. You're right about that. You are so right about that. So hopefully in the coming weeks or in the coming months, we will see more from Ice Cold outside of her hiding behind folks and doing stuff like that. Cause yeah, it's about time that we saw more of what she had to do since she wants to get in other folks' business. But in the end, Exile did win. And I really do believe that David McClain, Jeannie Buss, and AJ Mendez do need to have a workshop for their refs though at this point, because it's getting out of hand. It really is getting out of hand, and I just need their refs to really like keep to learn more about keeping their heads on the swivel. Like I've never been a referee before. I can never tell anybody how to do their job if I've never done it. But dang it, the way that these referees be missing stuff just be getting on my nerves. Okay, like y'all need to workshop them or get them together. Tell them like I don't know what it is y'all need to do, but I just need like get their refs up to speed, please, and just help them to do better. But before we go on to the main event, they did sort of, show us what got the main event started in the first place. They showed how the Heavy Metal Sisters have basically been fighting with each other over the past couple of weeks and sort of, sort of showing like the fractures in their sisterhood, which is so unfortunate because we do love them, especially Razor because she's a friend of the pod. Um and we sort of just hate to see these women fighting amongst each other. But then they also showed, Razor and Fury sort of arguing with each other while also running into Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey arguing with each other too, because they have a tag team in which they were beating up on people and stuff, but yet they were very toxic in the sense that they like to beat up on each other too. So with them beating up on each other and having their arguments and disagreements, and they ran into each other having arguments and disagreements, and then they wound up wanting to fight each other. So they were just like, look, since we all have our differences, let's all fight. And I'm thinking y'all finna fight in the alley, but then y'all didn't fight in the alley and y'all took it to the ring. So I was like, okay, fine. So this is how we have this fatal four-way right here. We got Reina Del Rey versus Wrecking Ball versus Fury versus Razor. And here again, this is another moment where I couldn't really take notes because everybody was everywhere beating up on each other. But some of the things that I did notice throughout the match with these women getting rough on each other and beating up on each other, rubbing each other's faces up against the ropes and all of the above, and beating each other, punching each other outside of the ring or whatnot. Something that I did notice was the fact that there was some hesitation from Fury to really go all out on Razor the way that she normally would on any other opponent. And I thought that was interesting. It was almost like there was some, residual like I don't want to do this because this isn't worth us fighting over because you're my sister or you're my best friend or something like that. But it felt like Razor was more than willing to get buck and beat up on Fury. So I was just like, okay, so Razor is the problematic one. It's her. She's the problem. It's her. So I'm just like, God dang. So is there ever any point for reconciliation? Like, will, Fury figure out that she was the one who was willing to beat up on her a whole lot more? But even then, you had Wrecking Ball and Raina, really beating up on each other some more and stuff like that. And it was just like all over the place. But as they were beating each other, it was just like, it was really rough. It was just a really amazing match to watch all these women just getting buck on each other like this. But in the end, finally it was Reina Del Rey who came out the victor in the match by hitting her patented DDT onto Razor to win. And it was assisted via the ropes too. So they won, and Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball actually wound up making amends in their friendship as they sort of did like a sister hit onto each other. So that was pretty much how this episode of WoW ended. But we still don't know about the Sisterhood of the Heavy Metal Sisters. For all we know, that might be finished. But Katrina, how did you feel about this match? And yeah. Do you see the Heavy Metal Sisters reconciling, or do you feel like this is it for them?
I don't know. They might. I kind of like. I'm now thinking back a few weeks ago when Razor kind of was saying that she kind of wanted to maybe try it on her own, and how that automatically caused some discord between them. And you know, if you're a friend with somebody for a long time and somebody you consider a sister, I'm sure anytime you argue, I've had these situations, you argue with somebody you're really close to, you love, and you would probably do anything for, and then it's always like, oh man, because you don't want it to be there, or you might have even lost a friendship that you thought would never happen, and then you're not friends with the person anymore. And so, I feel like that's a relatable concept for most people. We've all had that at some point, I'm sure. And so I feel like that's like, it's like, we're a team, but it's also like, what if she just wanted to prove that she can do this too by herself without the team? And so initially when Razor said that, that's the way I took it. Like, maybe she just want to prove to herself that I can do this too. Like, I can do the tag team stuff, I can do the faction stuff, but I can also do something for myself. I can also do something where maybe I get a little bit of some spotlight. I'm not necessarily like in an egotistical way. Maybe it's just something of a personal wanting to prove yourself. And so, the fact that they kind of been, I started to look at the last match they had, I felt like they were pretty on the same page in that match. But like weeks before that one, it's kind of like they never really was on the same page. They were always kind of like just not really seeming to be reading each other properly in the ring. And sometimes you just, what's the saying? You take something away and then it comes back. It will probably be stronger, or maybe that's what it's meant to be. And so, in this
Yeah, if you
situation,
love
maybe they.
something, if you love something, you let it go, and if it comes back to you, then that means it was meant to be with you.
Yeah, and so, and that I can take that even with friends. Like, if this is you're a person, or your twin flame, as they call it, or your soul sister. And I have one I call that, like, just sometimes you just need a minute, or just maybe just a recharge, just a little break, and sometimes it's okay. I mean, it sucks, and maybe that's what this is. And I don't want to assume it's just like Razor is just like, I'm past all of this and I'm better. I don't really necessarily get the vibe that it's an egotistical type of separation. I feel like this is more of a her thing. Like, it's just something she wants to do for herself. I might take, and maybe that's why it was a little bit easier for her to do so, because she had already put in her mind that she kind of wanted to do some solo stuff already. And this is like weeks ago when she first kind of was like, well, maybe I'll go for the title. Like that, I feel like she's already set herself in that space by now. Now the other, she kind of have to think like, man, do I need to do the same? I feel like that's why maybe she was more hesitant to want to go after Razor, because it's like, I think Razor's already kind of set herself on this already. Like, she was already at that place. Like, if I have to do solo stuff, I'll do solo stuff. And so I don't want to say, this is end of the relationship, because I feel like once you guys been friends long enough, or you've been sisters long enough, from the other iteration, wow, like they've been there for some time, I feel like that's something really like, not to throw away that, but maybe it's just they need a little bit of time, breathing room to get it together. But this is also wrestling, and sometimes wrestling, it's like you be like your own brother. All of a sudden, it's like, what, that time, think about like the Kane. Well, not that Rupert. There's gonna be like Kane and Undertaker, or like Matt and Jeff Hardy. How many times they feuded within themselves in that, being, even the Bellas, and they're twins, so like they had their moments, where they kind of needed a minute separated and they kind of feuded and it went down, whatever the case may be. And so maybe it's just one of those. I'm hoping it's not like a permanent break when it's like, oh man, they really hate each other now. And but again, we also know wrestling is wrestling, and sometimes we get the really dramatic, and then maybe everything will be fine. And so, but I'm taking it just right now, Razor. I feel like this is more personal for her, especially because it always seemed when you think about all the other matches where Razor was taking the brunt of punishment, and we've complained about that. Like I was like, why is she always getting the brunt of everything bad happening? She gets
Right.
all of that. Maybe this is literally a personal thing, just like maybe I gotta prove this to myself that I am good. I am this XYZ or whatever. And so I think that's what this is. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like I don't want to just feel like they can just throw that away. I feel like they've been friends for too long, that this agreement shouldn't be like, I'm gonna toss the whole friendship away. I feel like maybe it's just they need a little separation, and maybe they'll come back together and they'll be even more better for it.
Yeah, sometimes you are right about that. Like sometimes you do have to take space away from people, in order to, get your own head straight and figure out what your goals are. But if the relationship is worth salvaging and if you are willing to, figure out and get to the bottom of what it was and where you guys went wrong, then maybe there is room for reconciliation. Cuz it's like all the examples you mentioned, like even Matt and Jeff Hardy broke up sometimes and then, they found their way back to each other. You even see it with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They hate each other and then love each other and then they hug it out and then they wound up winning the tag team championships at WrestleMania of Night 1, which was a month ago today, which is so sick to think about. But yeah, it's just like sometimes the greatest friendships, do kind of fracture a bit due to differences or, growing out of each other or growing out of certain aspects. But if you truly love the person and somehow or another you can work it out, and I feel like reconciliation is possible, but only if you want to make it possible. Like if that ain't what you want, then don't force it. But if you really care, which it seems like Fury really does care, then maybe they'll figure it out. And maybe there's room for Razor to also care about their friendship as well as caring about her ambitions and dreams as well. For all we know, Razor could want to challenge Penelope Pink, for the Wild World title at some point, and she can still be friends, and then she would still have an army behind her to go up against the Fab Four, to even up those odds. So that would be cool. So yeah, that's pretty much where it ended. Reina Del Rey did win the match, so that's where the WoW episode properly ended. But then they also did announce that Coach Campanelli will be fighting the disciplinarian next week. So I am interested in that, considering last week they did um team team Brainy Discipline decided, or Team Tough Discipline, there we go, decided to prank Randy Rara and glue the whistle to her lips, and then they wound up choking her out in that really dastardly way. I ain't forgot how that happened. So hopefully Coach can get some revenge on behalf of Randy Rara and what they did by beating up on the disciplinarian. But then it's also hard because you want the disciplinarian to win, because of course we do root for black women over here. So it's just hard. But either way, it's gonna be a really, interesting match to see if she does get her revenge. So for those who were watching on the live feed everywhere, thank you guys for watching this Wow Superheroes after show. Of course, like I always say, shout out to Miss Minga, who is at every Wow taping, and I love playing the game of Where is Miss Minga every episode, because I know she's gonna be there. So shout out to her for being so supportive to the Wow ladies at every taping. And also, of course, if you want to support WOW Women of Wrestling, you can go on their website, wowe.com, to look up, the listings for where it's showing wherever you're at. And if you, of course, live in Alabama, it's going to show at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on my network 68. So please check it out on Saturdays on there. Of course, check your listings, because y'all know we got sports going on, and sports likes to preempt wrestling sometimes. So please be on the lookout for that, and just continue to support these women inside of WoW and outside of WoW. So yeah, just continue to support us as we continue to grow too. So yeah, shout out to Isla R the Sandman. Thank you for watching. I know I probably said your name wrong, but thank you for watching, and just thank everyone for watching on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So maybe one day we'll see. Katrina, just thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me, rather, to talk about WoW. Tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
Yeah, so I'm on social media in Cat We Trust, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram is 3. I did have quite a few videos because I told you guys I totally slacked last year. And so I did do quite a few interviews. I have 2 new interviews that came out last week. I think one was Monday, one was Friday, with Stevie Bay Knox, who's a ring announcer up and coming from Oregon. And I also had an interview with Brittany Brooks, who's an also up and coming 18-year-old super awesome wrestler, super sweet, super just such a positive energy that I really appreciated. And so that is on my channel. I also did a couple of reviews, so that's on there. And I do have another interview coming out this week, and then the one the week after that. So I've actually been on it, been better. And I will have a couple of reviews as well. So that is where you guys can catch me for wrestling.
Awesome sauce. Awesome sauce. You have great content, so you are always working and chugging it out. So it's always good to see that on my timeline. So yes, Katrina, yes, do it, and do it well. So you can find and follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. You can also listen to my show, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, everywhere you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, with the pink, purple, and blue logo in the middle with HWP there in the middle of a wrestling ring. Please check that out and check out all of my interviews. My latest interview with Chiseled Adonis is out now, so please check that out if you haven't had a chance. And also look at my series of Mercedes Monet's matches. I didn't have a chance to rewatch the Mercedes Monet versus Mayu Iwatani match from Stardom, but I did enjoy that match. So please look at the other series of videos that I did do on her other matches as well. And also, check out my work with Women's Wrestling Talk. I also write for Women's Wrestling Talk, and I did release a editorial talking about WWE's latest lawsuit involving Black women writers. So please check that out if you haven't already. And also be on the lookout for anything that we may be doing, because it is Asian and Pacific Islander History Month. So please be on the lookout of anything that we're doing for that, to celebrate our women who are making moves, who are a part of that community. So we do support them in every way we possibly can. And just continue to support Women's Wrestling Talk. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter on at WWTalkPod. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com, where you can find all of our latest merchandise, all of our articles and interviews and episodes, audio and visual wise. You can check it out there too. And subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Twitch, and ring the bell so you can be notified every time we go live. And we be going live every day, so ain't no excuse for you to miss it. So we be on there, and we be on there. So we be on there. So just follow us and just continue to support us and love on us as we continue to grow and be the Avengers of women's wrestling. So, of course, this is Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And until next time, enjoy your week. It is May. And of course, enjoy the WWE draft, because that is happening too. So enjoy the rest of your week and have a fantabulous week in wrestling and in life, period. Bye, y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.